What's up everyone, this is Girls & Co. I'm Paxton, you know that. Setup's different, probably noticed that. That's because I'm home in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, and we're gonna talk about it. So I'm gonna take a break from my normal story times that I do, which is essentially just been bad dating stories, and tell the story of where I've been and why I've been MIA, why I haven't been posting new content for the past 2 weeks. As you know, I posted on the community channel that I needed to take a step back and I needed to reset because of some health issues. And it's been a lot, if I'm gonna be completely honest. It's been a lot. I think this entire year has been a lot for me. And up until recently, I've spent most of the time just trying to act like I'm okay and trying to hide how I'm really feeling and hide the health complications that I've been trying to navigate and figure out since literally the beginning of this year. I've realized that I believe has maybe caused me to seem cold, or it's caused me to seem like I'm not motivated, or I don't want to be working, or I don't have any personality, or I'm a bitch, or whatever it may be. And that's just the honest truth. That's just how I have felt that I have been portraying myself over the past year, because I've essentially just been using all of my energy to try my very hardest to put on a smile when the camera's on. Outside of that, I've just been dead tired. And so after this most recent situation that's gone down with my health, it seems like now's just the appropriate time to tell a story of what's going on. So this started back in summer of 2022, so probably like June. The first time I ever noticed something was off was whenever I did the first floorball tournament. I don't know if you guys have ever heard or remembered me telling the story about I had this allergic reaction, and at the beginning of floorball, I woke up and my throat was closing. I had these red splotches all over me. It was just weird. I've never experienced anything like that. I've never been allergic to anything. So that was the story where I went to the urgent care and then they gave me medical grade Benadryl, and I was essentially I was high as a kite for the entire first day of floorball. So that's when it started. I didn't realize at the time what was starting, but that was the first questionable symptom that I took notice of. And so from then, I didn't really put all of the symptoms together until it was impossible for me not to see it. So the second symptom that I noticed was I started losing a lot of hair, which shedding and losing hair is such a normal and natural thing. But if you knew me before I moved to New York, I had the longest, thickest, honestly, most beautiful hair ever. It was part of my identity, which is really sad, but it was a big part of me. And I remember Sam asking did you get your hair cut? And I had not gotten my hair cut. And that's when I started realizing, okay, my hair is thinner. Okay, my hair is breaking. Is it the New York water? Is it something is it because I use this certain shampoo? What is it? Honestly, I made it through the end of last year and I really didn't pick up on any other symptom. It really started at the beginning of this year. I ended up going to an OBGYN in New York. She did some blood work because I haven't gotten blood work done in, forever. And so that seemed like a good time to do it. And so I got this blood work and it was 2 weeks before my birthday in April. And I got a call from the doctor and she essentially told me just straight up, she's there's some stuff off with your blood work, but honestly, if you don't get this checked out and figured out, you're probably never gonna have kids. Just word of advice, don't ever tell a 28-year-old, 29-year-old woman that, because that was devastating to hear. Also, not true. It's just so dramatic. I got so many other follow-up opinions on that, and they were just that she should have never said that to you. So needless to say, I didn't go back to that doctor. But that did start putting things into motion that I was okay. So I started looking up symptoms of hyperthyroidism, and it's all of these things that I've kind of been dealing with these symptoms for a while. And when you're told something that could possibly piece it all together, it finally was brought to my attention, if that makes sense. So I needed to then get into an endocrinologist, which specializes in thyroid health. And the more people I talked to, the more common it felt. And so honestly, I was in a pretty good place with it. I was a little frustrated, mainly because I was losing my hair, and that's just, it broke my heart, truly. But I was okay because I felt like I had answers. And I mean, it took me, so that was April. It took me like 2 months to get into an endocrinologist. I go in, he does the whole checkup, I tell him my symptoms, blah, 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 all of this. And honestly, I'm like thinking, okay, like we're gonna figure this out. If this is it, like we might have to make some changes, some like nutrition changes, whatever it may be. But like I'm ready to do that because I just wanna feel better. I get the blood results back from the endocrinologist in like June, and he basically calls me and is like, you don't have hyperthyroidism. We can follow up and see and, you know, try to dig a little deeper, but I don't believe it's like an endocrinologist gonna help you, basically. That was devastating because at this point, I'm very aware that I don't feel okay. And I'm very aware of these symptoms that are not normal. And I thought that I had found the answer, and I didn't. And so for me, it was not that I wanted something to be wrong with me, but I just thought I had the answers and I didn't. And so after that, life just kind of got really crazy. And so for me, I knew I was going home at the end of July, which is where my primary care doctors are located. I do all of these tests. We're trying to figure out what it is. Is it hormone based? Is it autoimmune? Is it was I bit by a tick? I was trying everything. I was doing blood work and tests and all of this stuff for everything. And nothing came back. So August and September, I was so busy with work, and that was on purpose. I was really just trying to distract myself from anything and everything. And I was working and doing so much and filling all of my downtime because I knew when I stopped, it was gonna hit me like a freight train. And it did, because the entire month of August and September, I was slowly chipping away at whatever energy I had left. I started needing a lot more sleep. I started realizing that I was a lot more sluggish. I couldn't work out as much as I would like to. I was still losing weight, but I wasn't eating less. I was still losing hair, but I wasn't using heat. I wasn't doing anything. It was just so frustrating because I felt like I was deteriorating. And I would talk to my doctors and try to figure out, like, what can I test for next? What can I do next? And so the next thing was a saliva hormone test, which essentially stated that my hormones were all out of whack. So I knew that that was probably a primary factor of some of the things I was feeling, but I just kept getting worse, it felt like. And it got to a point to where I'll never forget, it was the last week in September, and I was just like aimlessly walking around New York. I texted my friends that I was just not okay. I was depressed. It felt like everything in my life was just chaos. It felt like I was being an awful friend because I didn't have the energy to talk to people as much as I used to. It felt like I was being lazy and not working hard enough at work because I was giving off this energy that I had this awful attitude or didn't want to be there, and that just wasn't the case. It felt like my body was shutting down, and it just seemed that no one knew what was going on with me. And that's no one's fault. That's on me because I should have spoken up a lot sooner because I thought that I could handle everything. But when you feel as if, when your body and your brain don't match up, it's the most soul-crushing thing you could experience. And so that's kind of where I was end of September, beginning of October. And I was at my weakest at the beginning of October, and that's when, the sprinted marathon of MLB playoffs starts. And so I wanted to do those live streams because I enjoy them. I so enjoy sitting in a recliner with Jake or Jimmy or Joe's or Jack Doyle, Zoe, Dan, Jolly, Pinnock, Dalton, all of them. It brings me so much joy being able to do those things. And it was so sad. It was so sad when I couldn't do them wholeheartedly. But I kept trying. I would do my live streams and I would go to the college bars on Saturdays and I would edit everything and post these videos, and I tried, and I honestly think I did a great job in October. I at least as good of a job as I could. And I think that's where I would get so frustrated and so sad, because I knew in my brain that I was capable of doing a lot more, but my body just wouldn't let me. But I kept pushing it. I kept pushing it. And come the end of October, beginning of November, World Series ends on a Wednesday. And I had every intention of just continuing to go and sleep on the weekends and recover then. And so I knew at the end of the World Series, this was what I had left. I had a few video shoots that I needed to do to backlog some content. I had Blitzball Battle 4 in the warehouse, which those weeks are always a grind, but they're so rewarding. And then I knew that I was coming home on the 16th, because at this point, after doing a little bit more digging and whatnot, some of my symptoms that started showing up over the course of July, August, September, October, like just weird things. I started having days that felt like kidney pain. There was a few times, actually the day before we started filming for Floorball 2, I thought I was gonna have to go to the ER that night because I hadn't been in that level of pain. I started having really bad days. Like I had a day, like my normal day would be these symptoms, but I could manage it and just get through it. And a bad day, I couldn't even leave my couch. Like I didn't have the energy to do anything. Like showering was the most difficult task. Like getting out of bed was hard. Like holding my water bottle and filling it up with water, like felt like I was carrying like 2 tons. I would have days like that, like frequently. Back to November, the World Series ends, and I mean, naturally I'm exhausted. That next day is a Thursday, and we had to go to the warehouse for a dress rehearsal because Blitzball Battle 4 started that next week. And so we did the dress rehearsal, did all of that. So that next day, that Friday, I had planned on filming Girls & Co. OG3 episode with Taylor and Sam. I had to cancel that. I had like 2 other video shoots that I had planned on that day. I had to cancel them. I genuinely had 0 energy. I slept that entire day. I think I maybe slept like 17 hours that day. And then I was up for maybe 2 hours, and I went back to sleep and slept for another 13 hours on that Saturday. And that is so unlike me. It's just so unlike me. I don't sleep that much, but it felt like my body needed it. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, if all I need to do is sleep for like 2 days and then I'll be fine, great. So I did that. That Sunday was Marathon Sunday. And honestly, I had a good day. Well, a good day for me. It would probably be like a terrible day for someone else, but it was a good day for me because I could smile without forcing it, and I could laugh and enjoy a conversation and walk around and be as normal of a person as I could be. So that Monday, I knew I needed to go to the office because I had a few videos get corrupt. They were going to be posted that week, and I had to get them done before the Blitzball Battle 4 week because I knew I wasn't going to be able to like mentally do that while also doing Blitzball Battle 4. And so I was in the office really all day Monday, and I left the office and then hopped on the train and went to the hotel out in Jersey City for our orientation. And so there, I think people started realizing how worn out I was then, but probably didn't think anything of it. It's really easy to forget my energy level and just overall personality last year and how different it is this year. I ended up actually staying with Kelsey in her hotel room for that night before I went to the Airbnb. I slept fine. I slept enough to function the next day. So that entire next day, Tuesday, I was normal. I was great. I was grinding. I was pushing myself. Like I was giving it my all as I try to do every tournament like that. And don't hear me say that I was grinding and that it was long and hard days as a negative, because I actively choose to be a part of these things because I enjoy it so much. That Tuesday night, I go to the Airbnb, and something for me that I've realized with these symptoms is that when it's someone else's home or someone else's guest bedroom, whatever it may be, it's like my body doesn't know how to just relax. And I don't know why that is. That's only been the case this year with my symptoms. I knew I needed to go to sleep early. I knew I was going to try to rest as much as possible. So that Tuesday night, I don't know what happened, but my body did not want to relax. It didn't want to sleep. I could tell my body was worn down. I could tell that my heart rate was spiking. I could tell that I was in the midst of having a really bad day. But I was just doing everything I could to try to sleep. I was just in pain. And so I think that night I ended up sleeping maybe 3 hours, maybe 3 hours. So I texted Sam in the middle of the night, bless Sam's soul. I texted Sam in the middle of the night and was like, hey, I'm not gonna make that 7:30 time. I'll just Uber to the warehouse and I'll be just a little bit behind everyone. I'm just having a really bad health night. And so I wake up and I feel terrible, obviously. But one thing about me is that one thing that hurts me more than these symptoms and this pain that I was feeling is letting people down. And I felt like I would let people down in the warehouse if I didn't pull myself together and show up. And so I sent everyone a text, just kind of giving them a fair warning of, hey, I have this much energy left and I'm gonna dedicate it all to being on camera. Outside of that, I'm not doing great. Just please give me a little grace and sympathy. And everyone was so great and loving, as much as they knew how to be. And so that day was just a tough day for me. And as each hour went by, it got worse and worse. I started being able to eat less and less. By the end of the day, everyone was going out to this group outing and I wanted to go so badly, but I couldn't. I knew I needed to sleep. So I grabbed a Gatorade and I was riding back to the Airbnb and I drank that Gatorade on the way home. And the second that the second I got out of the car and went upstairs, I threw that Gatorade right up. That was kind of okay, I'm not doing good. So showered, tried to relax. I literally laid in bed. Everyone left at 7. So I ordered some food. I ordered some Panera, ate 3 bites of that soup, threw it up. Tried to eat some of that bread, threw it up. It's just about 8 o'clock at this point, and I'm just gonna try to go to sleep because I was exhausted. I was tired. And I knew I needed to sleep. But when I tell you I got in bed at 8 p.m., and I did not doze off until 5:50 a.m. It was awful. Poor Sam and Kelsey. I was having a conversation with myself in our text conversations. I would tell Sam I'm still awake. It's 2 a.m. and I am gonna try to sleep in the morning and then I'll be there the second half of the day. So Kelsey can take the first 2 games, I can take the second, and it'll be fine. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And then as it kept going on, my symptoms just kept getting worse and worse. And the symptoms that I was having that night that continued on into the next day that got so bad. So my body was just in pain. At this point in the night, it felt like every bone was bruised. My head was obviously hurting because I couldn't eat anything. I was nauseous, and then my heart rate was resting at 105, which is crazy. And so I dozed off for an hour-ish or so, hour and a half, and I wake up because I hear people leaving at 7:30 to go to the warehouse. And when I wake up at 7:30, I never go back to sleep. And that's when it got really bad. I texted my mom and dad and said that I'm not doing good and I need help and I need someone to fly up to New York to help me because the amount of pain that I was in, I would wish upon no one. It got to a point in that morning that it felt like every bone in my body had been broken at that point. So I would try to get up and go to the bathroom or move, and it was so painful. And as the hours went on, it got to a point to where I couldn't even get up. I would try to drink water because I knew I was so dehydrated and I was throwing the water up. My headache was so bad that my jaw locked up at one point. I couldn't keep my eyes from rolling all around. I could barely speak because it took so much effort. And about 10:30, I'm in this Airbnb by myself. And I'm just trying so hard to mentally wrap my head around how am I gonna leave? Because at this point I'm in so much pain, I knew I needed to go home, but I didn't know how I was gonna get the energy to even get out of bed, let alone pack my suitcase and go down a flight of stairs. So I called my mom, like hysterically crying. And I was just crying in bed by myself because I couldn't get out of bed at that point. I couldn't move. And she said that I needed to go to the ER. And so I was texting Sam, and that's what I did. I went to the ER. Bill, who works with us at John Boy Media, is an angel. He drove me to the ER. I threw up the entire way there. He had to basically carry me out of that Airbnb and put me in the car. They had to like wheel me in a wheelchair. I couldn't even lift my arm for them to put the hospital bracelet on. And I've never been in that much pain in my life. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And so when I got to the ER, I was so fortunate to have these incredible women, nurses and doctors that took really good care of me and it gave me something for the pain and fluids and whatnot, and I fell asleep for like 4.5, 5 hours. Bill sat there with me the whole time, drove me back to my apartment, and I slept. My mom got to New York the next morning by the time I woke up. And the next few days were some of the hardest days too, because I couldn't eat. I couldn't keep food down. I would be fine, and then I would be awful and just laying there crying because of how much pain I was in. From then, it was just a matter of trying to get my body back into normal regulation. And so I went to my doctors here, and I mean, I got like 2 liters worth of like fluids and IVs and all of that. And so now I'm kind of in this weird waiting period because I had an appointment with a rheumatologist that, did 10 more tests with more blood drawn. Then she still didn't have answers, and then I got sent back to another endocrinologist to do other blood work. And so now I'm just kind of waiting for those results, and I'm trying to do anything in my power to bring me some sort of joy, because I can't even begin to express how defeating it is when you just want answers. I just want answers. And so I know that's a heavy story, but that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I feel the way that I do, but I'm trying to find a little joy in every single day, whether it's getting my hair done or my nails done or a random spray tan that no one's gonna see, because it's been hard and it's gonna continue being hard. But I think the more transparent I am with things and the more honest I am with things, the better it will be for me in the end, and I will feel a lot more sense of peace. And so that's what I'm doing. So that's my story time today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it's so long, but we'll be back to the fun-loving content soon, okay? Promise.